Welcome back to episode 37 of Lepodcast. You're here with Hoop, Saney, and the infamous ZZ Huncho as always, but we're also joined by Zach Schwartz, co-host of the Outta Pocket podcast. Great to have you here.
It's good to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on. Saney and I go back quite a ways now. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so we're going to talk some just general NBA stuff to start, but we're going to give you some questions at the very end. This was not on schedule, but I had to talk about it because the Knicks are rolling right now. 8-game win streak. I think like 18-13 right now. If they win tonight against the Raptors, 19-13, fifth in the East. No one saw us here but me. But that's the question is, I'm not here to showboat or any of that. They'll save that for a later date. I want to talk about the three Knicks pieces that are not in the rotation right now because they have three pretty valuable guys that are not a part of this win streak, and they're not going to get playing time anytime soon. You tell me where you think these guys should end up or where they will end up. Derrick Rose, Cam Reddish, Evan Fournier. Zach, let's start with you.
I still hold out that Cam Reddish is going to be something exciting, right? Like, I loved him in college. I think going into the draft, I was like, I think he's an intriguing prospect. I still think the Knicks haven't figured out the best way to use him yet. But of all those names you just said, he's the only one that I think can, if he figures it out, take a team to another level. I love Fournier. I don't know what's going to be left in the tank. And I think if you're holding your breath for anything from Derrick Rose, at this point in Derrick Rose's career, you're asking a lot. And I think that's kind of the reality. I think, honestly, they should free Cam Reddish. But the problem is you got to play him so that someone's willing to trade for him or do anything of the sort, and I don't think they're going to do that. But, yeah, I think of all those guys, Cam's the only one that's worth holding your breath for any kind of giant leap.
Z, he just said Derrick Rose doesn't have anything left in the tank. How you feel about that, dog?
It's an absolutely blasphemous statement. I think Derrick Rose has value. I think Derrick Rose will provide value for a contender off of the bench. I think that Rose can be utilized much better than he is in New York. As a matter of fact, I think he's being held hostage in New York, and I just don't like that. Evan Fournier, personally, don't care. Cam Reddish, on the other hand, I agree. I think that I've been also holding out on Cam Reddish when he was coming to the Knicks through that trade. What was it, last year, Hoop? Wasn't it? Right? Yeah. So last year when he came through, I remember a lot of Knicks fans being very high on him from his three-point shot, 3-and-D guy, just another
He's
guy.
Zion bait. Forget the attributes. He's Zion bait.
He was Zion bait
him and
for
RJ.
sure. The little reunion and all that stuff. But yeah, I think that since he's been there so far, it's just been hard to kind of find a role for him. I don't know if it's Tibbs himself or if I think it's a mix of both. Not only just Tibbs, but his individual play. I remember he was wasn't he the guy that was out there asking for like more minutes but putting up terrible production? And Knicks fans
ended up being a myth. That ended up being a myth that he clarified on his Instagram story. Yeah. I don't know why people had it out for him like that. Saney, what do you think about any of these players?
Well, I'm gonna side with Z on the Evan Fournier. I don't care. I don't think he's gonna make a huge difference on really any team you put him on at this point. I think he's just gonna like ride out the tail end of his career. I think internationally he's a bucket, and then when he comes back to the Knicks, he's nothing. I don't understand it. But with Derrick Rose, I want to see Derrick Rose on a contender. I think I have to agree with Zach in terms of how much can he really do, impact-wise. If he's like he's not going to be a major contributor. He's not going to be like the big piece. He's not the make or break player. But I would love to see him on a team like the Bucks or a team like, let's say, the Clippers. Like any team that could use a backup
New
point
Orleans
guard.
can use a point guard.
New Orleans, yeah.
Isn't it CJ at the lead guard spot and they play Jose Alvarado?
Yeah, they also have Devontae Graham, but they just don't use him.
I'd take Derrick Rose in a playoff series over Devontae Graham.
For sure.
The time is over 100.
But other than those two, obviously the biggest name here is Cam Reddish. I have been an advocate for Oklahoma to trade for Cam Reddish since he was available in trade talks last year. In like 2 weeks, it's going to be, in like 2-3 weeks, it'll be a year since he got traded to the Knicks. And I remember seeing that trade package and thinking, why the hell did Sam Presti not pull the trigger on this? Because they gave up Cam Reddish for little to nothing, the Hawks. I don't remember the exact deal, but I remember looking at it and being mind blown. I think Oklahoma definitely has the pieces to trade for Cam Reddish. I'd give up a guy like Darius Bazley or someone to get Cam Reddish in Oklahoma because I would love that. But I really hope that Cam Reddish doesn't stay on the Knicks because I think if he's up for trade, if he's in the market for a trade, Oklahoma is like one of the contending teams to get him.
And lastly, before we move on, Zach, you said you still have high aspirations for Reddish. What kind of player do you think he could develop into, and what kind of level can he take a team to? And like, what role could he play?
I thought he could be a good, like a serviceable starting guard. I think my expectations were, or serviceable starter rather. I think my expectations were somewhat lowered. So I'd say, like, if he can figure his thing out and get to being a very productive sixth man, seventh man, that's probably where the ceiling is now. I just think that this far into a career, you don't usually see guys suddenly figure it out. I think there are far fewer. There aren't a lot of Geno Smiths out there, and there are far fewer of them in the NBA. So I don't know. I think that's kind of what you have to expect now. I really thought he'd be a good starting player in the NBA. Maybe an all-star twice in his career, once in his career on a year where someone gets hurt and he can replace, but obviously that's not happening.
Yeah, if we can move on now, the one thing I'll say is Cam Reddish has no floor. He's the most hot and cold player, I think, on the Knicks. He could be a nice defender one night, but then he's reaching passing lanes, stupid turnovers. He has no arc on his shot, and that leads to some awful misses when he's off. And it's unfortunate because when he is playing well, he's a harassing defender. He can knock down threes, nice shot creator. But when when he was traded from the Hawks and they said, oh, they just traded the next Paul George, like, no one's trading the next Paul George. So I think he needs to have his expectations lowered. But if we could be led into our next segment.
Our next segment of the day is called the AD-less Lakers. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the Lakers reportedly are seeking additional opinions on Anthony Davis's foot injury. As you all know, he exited the Denver Nuggets game and where he apparently went up in midair and just got hurt. I genuinely don't know how my man got hurt, but apparently reports are speculating that it's just as bad, if not the same level as Chet Holmgren, which is just unfathomable to me. Anthony Davis, 29-year-old, you already know, averaging 27 on the year with 12 rebounds and 2 blocks a game. Honestly, in my opinion, leading candidate for Depoy. The Lakers started off the season 2-10, but with Anthony Davis going stupid on that run, they were 10-4 before he got hurt. So my question to you guys is, what is the fate of the Los Angeles Lakers season with Anthony Davis reportedly being out for more than multiple weeks now? Now it's looking a little bit more dark than we anticipated. But I want to know, what does this do to the Los Angeles Lakers going forward with the remaining core that they have intact? Zach, I want to start with you.
It sucks. I was talking to a friend, and he and I have both kind of lamented the fact that Anthony Davis always gets hurt, and it was so fun watching him play in a way where it was like, oh, this is like what we as Lakers fans kind of always hoped he could be. But you kind of knew in the back of your mind this was probably how this journey was going to end at some point this season, of him having to take some time off for injury. It's sort of just the reality with him. I think Jovan Buha had an article today about the Lakers trying to trade for Bradley Beal and how that would all work. I don't know the math of the contracts. I know that there are big numbers involved. Russ has played in a way that he's now something the Lakers probably don't want to give up. But they have to do something now. And I didn't want them to trade him, Russ, because it was really fun watching that kind of team click back together. It's been fun watching Russ figure out his role with this team. And I know Sandy and I have had some long Russ conversations. But that being said, the short answer is they're going to have to make a trade. I don't know if they're going to just pull the trigger on Miles Turner and Buddy Hield. But I don't know what they're going to do, but they're going to have to make a trade.
Going on to what Zach said, I 100% agree, because just to give you some quick facts about the Lakers without AD, they, in the 5 games he hasn't played so far this season, due to injuries, they're 2-3, and their 2 wins come from a game against the Spurs, which they only won by 5, and they let the Spurs score 138 points that game, and a win against the Wizards, which they only beat the Wizards by 2. And reminder, I think the Wizards just got their first win the other night, but before that they were on a 10-game losing streak. So they're not pretty wins. So don't let that 2-3 record without AD, skew your view on how they are without him. I think without Anthony Davis, the Lakers are in huge trouble. The fact that you start your season 2-10, and then you go on this little spurty run, and then it's starting to have some hopes like, okay, a play-in is now possible. Before, I thought they were lottery, and I thought the Pelicans were going to get Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, so did I.
That's what I thought the Lakers, because the last time the Lakers were 2-10 was back in 2015, 2016 when they had that horrendous 17-65 record. That was the path that they were leading down, and it was embarrassing, honestly, because when you have LeBron, AD, and Russ, you should never be going 2-10. Heading into this season, and Zach knows I'm a huge Russ fan. The beginning of last season, I remember we had that live, and I was saying they were going to win the chip. Like, I was so high on the Lakers, and they ended up crashing down so fast. And heading into the season, I said it on the show during the summer as well, it can't be worse. There was no possible way things can get worse than what it was last season. It is not possible. And they, against all odds, the one thing they want to prove me wrong on is that. Which is ridiculous. And I think without Anthony Davis, they need to pull the trigger now. I hate to say it, they got to get rid of Russ. As well as Russ is playing off the bench, you need Buddy Hield or Miles Turner or some sort of deal like that. The fact that they want to give up all of their first-round picks while they're trashing out, but they don't want to give up any in 2027 to try and at least win now when you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Now is the time you want to salvage picks. Where was that mindset beforehand? Because now you're just going to go through 5 years of not even mediocrity, but just embarrassing season after season. You're just ruining your reputation as a franchise, letting these guys ride out, letting guys like LeBron and AD ride out with no draft picks. Imagine a generational talent, Victor Wembanyama. You're in talks of getting him in the lottery, and you have to send him to the Pelicans because of how bad you are. And Rob Pelinka, he doesn't want to pull the trigger on anything. He's scared to trade Russ after the season Russ had last year, and this is coming from the biggest Russ fan in the world. How was that trade not done? There has to have been something that wasn't reported to indicate why they did not pull the trigger on that, because Russ gave no reason for him to stay on that team. $47 million, and you're getting rid of a $47 million player who's contributing maybe $5 million worth of basketball, and all you're giving up is one first-round pick in 2027. I don't get it. I don't understand it. But I have to side with Zach here. If AD's out, you got to pull the trigger on something quick. If you want to save this season, because you're not in a position where you can lose games.
Wait, are we pretending like what are they saving? If Anthony Davis has this Chet injury, he's done for the year. What are the Lakers
I don't think
doing
it's that
with Buddy
severe,
Hield and
because
Miles
that's
Turner?
just because everywhere else I'm looking at, it's
If
saying
he could come
when
back
AD's
this
coming back in a
season,
month.
you have a point. You have a point if he's coming back.
That's what I mean. I'm not that Chet thing was a doctor fears. That's not a.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Hey,
before.
I gotta get on Basketball Forever because then they're misleading me. They posted that on Instagram.
Yeah, but it was like it was like a
Alex,
report,
if
like
you're seeing
some
this.
doctor was saying that like they fear that it could be as bad. It's just like until I hear a straight up report,
Right.
I'm assuming that Anthony Davis is coming back. I'm never
Right.
gonna go off the basis of a doctor that watched a video of him getting injured.
So
Right.
yeah, if he's gonna come back, then make the trade. But at this point, I just let LeBron break his record. I'd let Russ get some numbers. I think the Lakers have nowhere to go, like with or without AD. He's going to go down again. I tried being hopeful because I told you guys at the start of the season, I don't know if I told you, but I made a video saying that I thought he'd be decoy and I thought he would stay healthy this season. And we were talking about superstars and Kawhi and AD and like, do you have to wait for them to come back and be bad to keep them out of superstardom? Because like when they're good, when they're healthy, they're good. And Anthony Davis just continues to go down. But if we're all done with that topic, I'd love to get into another superstar. This guy's been struggling really badly lately. Trae Young, super inefficient. We're going to play this or that. We've done it before with John Stockton. It got nasty. We've done it before with some other players. Usually there's like a bad narrative surrounding them before we do
I
this or
forgot
that.
there was a month straight of us just ripping John Stockton
Just destroying John
for
Stockton.
no reason.
Bro,
Hold on, Zach, what's your
Do you
take
know
on
what-
John Stockton?
do you know what Trae Young would do to John Stockton?
Facts.
Exactly.
Facts. He's
John,
one of us.
John Stockton fucking is getting cooked if he plays in today's league. If John Stockton has more place at the January 6th insurrection than he does playing in the NBA today. Okay? That's where I sit with that.
You put him
Fuck
in
that
the
whole
zone.
jazz
Wait,
team.
wait, wait, wait.
Fuck Karl Malone.
They went off at me for saying this, and I want to hear your personal opinion, okay? Who are you taking? A prime John Stockton. I said the latter, by the way. I didn't say John Stockton. Or a prime Kyle Lowry.
Oh my
I said
Still
Lowry.
funny.
History
I said
history
my boy
becomes
Lowry.
so disrespectful. Kyle Lowry.
We were saying
Kyle
Rajon
Lowry.
Rondo. Rajon Rondo.
John Stockton, all due respect to all those assists he has, there is something, he had to do something well to do that. Like, no one will probably get to where he got with assists. I don't think. I could be wrong. But they hunted him on screens and shit like that, and he would get cooked on defense and shit. So I would rather have Lowry probably. But, fuck, I love the disrespect.
Yeah, we got down to, who would you say besides Rondo? Was it like Chauncey Billups or someone like that? It got
I said I'd take Rondo. I would take Kemba Walker. I would take
Kemba's crazy. Kemba's crazy.
I was thinking it in the terms of, listen, I understand John Stockton's impact on the game. Like, yes, he's the all-time leading in assists. I'm not disrespecting him in terms of, like, I don't think
But what
he's
did he
last
do?
in today's league.
But what did he do?
But what did he do? Where's the bag? I am looking for the bag. As a guard, you need a bag in this era. Where is the bag? Like,
I never
tell me where it
understood
is.
why him and Chris Paul's discussion.
Right.
Well, we had, not to jump ahead, but we had Boogie on the show, and he said, and it's funny because, like, he teed that segment up as calmly as he could, but before the show, he was like, Chris Paul doesn't belong anywhere near those guys. And what I had forgotten about is that Chris Paul and DeMarcus are not cool with each other.
Exactly.
There's a great YouTube video about their beef history, but I think that's probably steering a lot of that conversation. I think
when
Chris
he
Paul
said that, I was
is way
like,
better than John Stockton.
When he said that, I was like, didn't I see a clip when I was like 8 of Boogie just chucking the ball off Chris Paul's back just cuz he just launched it. I was like, that I just don't think they're cool. I genuinely don't think that they're good buddies.
No, they're not.
I don't know.
No.
All right, well, getting into some Trae Young disrespect. As a Knicks fan, this warms my heart.
Oh my god.
We're doing this or that. I'm going to name 2 players, one of them being Trae Young. Tell me who you would take right now as your starting point guard. We're going to go Zach, Saney, and then Z. And let's try to get through all these players here, and then we could wrap back to discussion and debate and whatnot. Starting off, Steph Curry.
Steph. But, oh, fuck, sorry.
Wait, Steph.
What butt is there?
Yeah, we'll go back to that. We're circling back to that butt. We'll circle
he's
back. He's
injured. I'm hoping he's saying he was injured. Next up, Luka Doncic.
Luka.
Saney?
Luka Doncic. Sorry.
I thought you were thinking.
Yeah, for real. Luka Doncic. Cause stop playing.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Shai.
Oh, he's thinking.
Shai.
I'm going SGA for sure.
Damian Lillard.
Dame.
Although,
actually, no. Let me go back. Trae.
Ooh. Okay. We'll circle back.
Today, Trae.
I'm taking Dame.
I'm gonna take Dame.
Ja Morant.
Ja.
Josh Shiesty.
Kyrie Irving.
Trae.
Are we talking like as a
Don't
basketball
switch up
player?
now. Don't switch up now.
Well, like you're
No, but,
saying
like, you
today.
said you'd would you rather
career.
as your starting point guard?
Who
Like,
would
no,
you
no,
have as
like
starting
today.
point guard today?
Yeah.
Who's
Trae.
Like
Trae.
I'm assuming they're playing every game, right? Like not the Kyrie.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving.
I'm gonna take Trae.
No.
I'm gonna
You
take Trae
get
on this
Kyrie.
one.
No.
That's where we disagree.
No. You get Kyrie with all the YouTube brain that he has. He
Yeah,
does
that's
not
what I'm
play
asking.
every
Like,
game.
am I
I'm
getting-
saying you get Kyrie as often as Kyrie wants to play.
Am I getting Kyrie wearing Skechers, or am I just getting Kyrie
Yeah.
as a basketball player?
No, you're
That's
getting
what I'm trying to
Skechers Kyrie.
Yeah.
In a flannel and chain on the
Getting
sideline.
Kyrie and some shape ups.
Next up, point guard James Harden.
Trae.
I'm taking Harden. I'm taking
Huncho.
Harden.
That's actually a tough one. I'm gonna go Harden. On this one too.
Tyrese Halliburton.
This is easy for me.
I think I still go Trae.
I'm going Tyrese just because of like how, like, aren't the Pacers better than the Hawks right now? Like he
Is
has
that
made
the
team
sole
incredible.
reason?
No, but like I'm taking Tyrese because I would rather him as a point guard. He would elevate my team better than Trae Young would.
From watching a lot of Pacers games this year, I'm taking Horton here as a Halliburton. I'm taking him for sure. My
I
man,
like that nickname.
that's his new name, courtesy of Honcho. You're welcome.
De'Aaron Fox.
Trae.
Yeah, I'll take Trae in this case.
Trae, for sure.
I'm not gonna. I mean, I would take Trae over De'Aaron too, but the fact that y'all thought about the other ones and not De'Aaron shows how underrated he is.
He is extremely underrated.
He's got a
However,
clip
I just
now.
think facilitation aspect, Trae just kind of
He's underrated, but in relation to other NBA guards, there is a lot more guards that are better than De'Aaron Fox.
yeah.
There's an
Next
argument
up.
of him to be in the bottom top 10 of
Yeah.
point guards.
We're getting down here, but Darius Garland.
Ooh,
Trae.
I don't know. I like Garland, man. I love
me
Garland's
too, me
game,
too.
but I'm gonna go with Trae. But I think Garland very soon is gonna overtake him.
I'm gonna go Trae for now. Give me like 2 more months of Darius Garland though. Let me see what the Cavaliers looking like in 2 months.
LaMelo Ball.
Oh God.
Trae.
Yeah, I'm taking Trae with this one.
I'm gonna take Trae. LaMelo's just LaMelo. Yeah, I'm gonna take Trae. I'm not even gonna go there.
And then lastly, Drew Holiday.
Trae.
But-
Oh,
I wanted to see
you
how
went quick with it.
disrespectful Saney was gonna get. I wanted to see. That's why I'm going
I love
down
Drew.
the list.
No, I'm
no,
saying Trae, but-
I know you do. I thought you were gonna
I'm gonna
take
say-
Drew over Trey. I was
No,
like, we're
I'm
gonna have to
taking
talk
Trae.
about
I'm
that.
taking Trae. I'm taking Trae, obviously, but Drew is underrated. He's an underrated presence.
If I need him to guard Steph Curry, I'll take Drew. But other than that, I'm taking Trae.
So let's circle back
Sure.
to Tyrese Halliburton.
Mhm.
Let's.
Oh, you don't want to do the Steph Curry. You don't want me to finish the Steph Curry.
Oh,
Yeah, I
you
wanna see
actually
the
had
butt.
a. What's the butt?
Yeah.
I've been making this argument for a long time, and it's not that Trae is better than Steph. It's that on trajectory, especially because of those first years where Steph didn't play, get the minutes, injured, all that stuff, that Trae will likely have a really good shot at breaking any records that Steph sets. Now, the 3.1 or whatever Steph ends up sitting there, that's going to be the hard one. But I do think there's a lot of things scoring-wise, assists. Trae's going to have way more than Steph will. And so I just think from a trajectory standpoint, he may not get the rings. If he goes and is the second option on a team and wins some titles, I don't think we should shun him for doing that. And I also think you need to take a deep look at the end of everything at how well Trae has done. That's all.
Yeah, you're taking Steph Curry now.
Yeah.
There's no question about that. No questions
No.
about that. So let's get to Halliburton. Zach, why are you taking Trae over Halliburton? I don't know who I'm agreeing with you. I want to hear both of you guys.
Trae, I understand, like, you can tell me that he's been on loser teams for a lot of this run, but so year 1, 20 a game, year 2, 30, year 3, 25, year 4, 28, year year 4, year 5, sorry, God damn it. Year 5, 27.3. And it's just the assists too. Like right now he's averaging 27 and 10. I get it. Like, they're not a great team. I also think he hasn't had really great players around him. I thought Murray would help, but it's been clear that, like, they don't know how to play together. And I think that him having to do hero ball for as long as he has no idea how to play as a second option. And so that's going to make it hard for him. But I don't know. Like, Halliburton has been awesome. He's 2 years younger than Trae, but he's 10 points short of what Trae has and is still an assist shy of what Trae's giving you. So, he plays better defense, certainly than Trae, but I don't know. That's sort of where I sat with it.
The way I looked at it, because when Hoop said it, he said, who would you rather have as your starting point guard? The reason I took Halliburton is because I think Halliburton does a better job at facilitating. I think he's a much better team player. He definitely gets guys involved more. Like, to me, that crazy run that Halliburton was going on with just no turnovers and just racking up assists game in, game out, and even the turnovers he's getting, they're not crucial to me. Like, it'll be like garbage time.
Saney, you, a Russell Westbrook fan, are going to tell me that someone can have double-digit assists and is
But
not a
there's
good facilitator.
No.
that.
I never said Trae was a bad one. I said I believe that Haliburton is a better facilitator. I think Trae Young is amazing. I think a big turnoff for me when it comes to Trae Young is his efficiency.
You didn't need to pause that. That's not that bad.
Whenever Z's in the call,
Z's
in the call, I have to. Okay.
That's a big pause. Resume. Go ahead.
Thank you. He's the pause police. Anyway, I don't like Trae's efficiency at all, and I think it's not like he's in a slump. It's like every season we're seeing it. I think a big and people want to say, oh, he had that one series in 2021 where the Hawks went to the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, whatever. His efficiency was terrible that year in the playoffs as well. Like he's not a playoff riser in terms of like improving in certain aspects of the game. He just shoots the ball more, and he's doing the exact same thing that we've seen him do before. Again, Trae Young's a great player. I love his game. I think if he can become a little more efficient, he takes that jump to be like a guaranteed all-star every season, where it's like he's like one of the biggest threats in the league. But his efficiency is really bad at points. He will disappear in a lot of big moments as well. A big example of this was the Miami series with the Hawks. That man disappeared like I have never seen a point guard disappear in a series before. And nobody talks about that enough because the Hawks don't really have a lot of media attention around them. Nobody really cares about the Hawks. But with Tyrese Haliburton, I feel like the last thing I expected going into this season were the Pacers were going to be relevant again. Tyrese Haliburton, I know a lot of guys want to talk about the big step that a lot of these Pacers rookies are taking, Andrew and Benedict Mathurin. The biggest reason that the Pacers are great, I'm not going to call them great because that's indicating that, you know, they're contenders. But the biggest reason that the Pacers can contend for a playoff spot again is because of Tyrese Haliburton. That's why I'm taking Tyrese, because he is really the expectations I've had for him. He has surpassed miles. Like he went miles ahead of it. And he, to me, he's putting himself in that discussion where there's an argument for him to be a top 7 point guard in the league right now.
Yeah, shit. And at the start of the season, or was it 10, 15 games in when we had that top 5 point guard debate, I had him at 3. And the main reason that I had Brody
crazy.
at 3,
It
is crazy, isn't it? Looking back on it, I had Brody at 3. But the reason I had Brody at 3 was because, like Sandy said, bro was just going out there dropping dimes and not turning the ball over. We all expected the Pacers to be at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, and then Tyrese Haliburton shows up and is the saving grace for Indiana. Now, back to Sandy's point on Trae Young. A lot of people used to, when I would talk to my homies about Trae Young, the inefficiency argument, I never paid close attention to it until probably last year in the playoffs when Trae Young shot 18% from 3 in 5 games. Like Sandy said, that disappearance was absolutely unexpected. I was expecting Trae to ball out like he did the year before, and then the year before he balled out, but when you look closely at the numbers, shooting 41% from the field and 31% from 3, I don't think anybody really looked into the in-depth stats. They were just so shocked at how he made the Knicks his bitches, but whatever. After that though, my thing is Trae Young is obviously a facilitating god. Like we know that, right? We always knew that when he walked into the league. My thing is, when I'm comparing him to Tyrese Haliburton though, is Haliburton, when I've watched these Pacers games, the flow of that offense, any guy that's getting hit, whether he's at the 3-point line, if he's in the corner, if he's in the paint, 9 times out of 10, it's coming from Tyrese and something that he did. I was watching the Warriors game, right? Tyrese was shooting pretty damn good, I think, in the second half, to the point where the Warriors, every time he touched the ball, he sees a double team coming, and he immediately just finds a way to draw up a play. He would either pass fake, drive in, find a guy that nobody see, like things like that. I'm just watching him this season, and the way in which he distributes the ball, to me, is just a lot more than what I see from a Trae Young. In recent years, when we watch Trae Young distribute the ball without DeJounte Murray there, I mean, you get your occasional lob to John Collins, your occasional lob to Clint Capella, things of that nature. But the way that Haliburton is doing it, I think, and it might just be a height difference, I don't know. But the way that Haliburton's doing it is he's just distributing it so much better and in a lot more creative ways for a point guard of his stature. And I think that when you look at that and you look at the fact that he did lead the league in assists, I don't know if he's still leading the league in assists right now, but I know he's top 3. But the reason for that is just because of how great he is and how much he knows, how to just maneuver around with his stature and how he knows his game. I've seen him in the Warriors game hit a step back 3, and I didn't even think he was going to pull it. but having the confidence of knowing that the defense doesn't know if you're about to pass the ball or not, or if you're about to drive in and kick, things of that nature. He has that confidence at such an early age. And so right now I'm gonna give him that, give him his flowers, because Trae's inefficiency is something that I just cannot try and defend anymore. Like, you're a point guard. I get DeJounte's there. I get all of these things, but we've seen it so many times, and it's just like, when are you kind of going to shape it up? He's shooting 35% from three for his career so far, and that needs to improve even by just a couple. I need something more. But Hoop, what were you going to say?
I just think using the he knows when to score and when to pass thing for Tyrese is weird when comparing him to Trae, because Trae is the ultimate double threat and he's producing more as that double threat. I'm taking Trae over Halliburton. I remember when we did the top 5 point guards, Trae might have been 4 or 5, and then Halliburton was like 7 or something like that. I'm still doing it because I know when it's the end of the game and the ball's in his hands, despite the inefficiencies, I can expect him to generate some sort of good look. Against the Knicks, it wasn't him necessarily doing all the damage until the fourth quarter. It was him distributing to Herter and Bogdanovic. It was the shooters that killed us, and it's because of Trae's gravity. He would get a defender on his back, he'd throw the lob to Collins, whatever, and it looked a little different with DeJounte Murray in the scheme, but I'm not going to pin not having chemistry on him yet. I also really don't like the Atlanta bench right now. I like AJ Griffin as an up-and-coming guy, but I just think the team, I'm not going to pin the team against. I've seen too much of Trae Young. I know the talent is there, and which is why, as a talent, I am taking Trae Young over Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah, that's the issue I have a little bit, is like, we want to blame Trae for these woes the Hawks are having. It's like, well, something changed in the last year, and it hasn't been Trae Young. And so part of me wonders, like, I think if you switched both guys, both would benefit greatly. If you switched Tyrese, if Tyrese came over to Atlanta and Trae went to Indiana, things would look a lot better for both of them. I think Tyrese would be in the running to be an MVP if he wanted to. I mean,
right.
It's just interesting. I part of me wonders if it's fatigue with Trae, like, from our perspective, in that, like, he's been fucking good, but very inefficient, almost like James Harden, like, where you're kind of like, okay, you hunt your 28 a game and your 10 assists, but it's not efficient. 4 turnovers, averaging 4 turnovers for his whole career. So I do wonder, and it bums me out because I have a lot of Trae Young stock. So I just sort of want to. I thought the Murray thing would help him a lot, and then it hasn't. It's sort of a bummer. So I am curious, and it's awesome seeing what Tyrese is doing. So we'll see.
I've just kind of looked back and just been like, bro's shooting 21 shots at Trae's shooting 21 shots a game. Like, Tyrese is shooting 15 a game and hella efficiently. So for me, when I'm looking at my 2 starting point guards, you can say, if Trae's out there chucking up 21 shots a game and hitting barely 40% of them, I just kind of have an issue with that. And you have DeJounte Murray, who's out there. I've seen Hawks games this year where DeJounte's taken over, and I agree with what Zach said. I think it's another thing of Trae trying to figure out how to make that duo kind of just click. Because you don't know, like, there's just stretches where you watch Hawks games and you'll see DeJounte's going stupid for 2 quarters at a time, and Trae's just kind of sitting there just letting him do his thing. So I agree. I think that the fit is kind of, they're trying to make it work, or at least Trae's trying to make it work. But I think that he needs to find another way to do that, maybe by shooting maybe 5 less shots a game.
They're not a duo yet. They're a collection of players.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Well said.
If we could just get into one more thing about these point guards before getting into our questions. You said Dame, you would take Trae over Dame. Is that circumstantial to the injuries, or is it just in general?
I think it's hard to not weigh out. I was talking to a coworker about this. I fucking love Dame, and I think he's one of the most exciting players we've gotten to see over the last 5 years. But when you are a smaller guard that plays the way that he plays, I mean, obviously his shooting could keep him around. Like, the beauty with what Steph does is that he plays with such distance from guys and doesn't get hammered under the rim. He doesn't really need to drive to the rim as much in his game. But the list of injuries that Dame has had pile up on him over the last 3 years, you just sort of feel like when it goes for those kind of guys. Like Kemba was fucking breathtaking. And, obviously Kemba was, I think, a little older and carrying more injuries earlier on in his career than Dame has been. And they're injuries that take your athleticism quicker. But I just think if you're a Dame fan, enjoy it as much as you can, because I don't know how long he is for the league as far as that stuff goes. And that's why I think you take Trae.
Yeah,
is that
but
just unreliability.
So I agree with that. If we're talking about the injury sense, if we were to take all point guards in the current state that they're in and omit the injuries, just say whatever caliber of basketball they're playing when they're healthy, play them then. Where would you rank Dame then in the league as far as point guards go? Like top 3
Where would
or 5 or?
Yeah, I would say top 5. Top 5 certainly.
I was gonna say top 5 guaranteed. Top 3, you'd have to think about it.
Yeah, I'd have to sort that out. Oh, he's having another very fucking strong year. But yeah, I'd have to really sit and look at the list to figure out my top 3. But yeah, it was an easier decision to put SGA over Trae. I didn't even have to think twice on that one. I think you look at SGA and keep seeing that ceiling go up. If I were a Clippers fan, I'd be sick. I mean, if the Lakers hand Wembanyama to the Pelicans, I'll be sick about that for life. But if they don't, that's got to suck more being a Clippers fan, knowing you just handed that over. Obviously, if you get a ring, great, but from PG. But if you don't and you handed them SGA, that is shitty.
It does not look like they're getting a ring either.
I'm still not out on the
Clippers.
They're not getting a ring, bro.
I'm not out just yet.
I was.
I've seen
really
Kawhi go.
Let me see Kawhi in the playoffs.
I gotta see him in the playoffs.
I gotta see him in the playoffs.
Now you're saying this because, as long as he stays healthy and shows up for the playoffs. But we did this.
No,
in the bubble year.
They could sit him out for the next 20 games, just warm him up for 5 and let him run. The depth is good enough. If they could trade for a rim protector, let the depth with Paul George run into the postseason, get Kawhi ramped up for 5 games and let him go. They're a tough out, and the West is not sold to anyone just yet. And I think if it's like them versus the Nuggets, them versus the Grizzlies, they got a real good shot.
Kawhi, the last time I saw Kawhi in the playoffs, he almost if it was only because of injury that really stopped him. But I remember in the latter half of the playoffs, semifinals, conference finals, he was showing shades of 2019 Kawhi, where I was like, damn, he's looking unstoppable. Somebody got to stop him, and then he got hurt.
Yeah. If he didn't, I still think that if he doesn't mess his knee up in that Utah series, they win the whole thing.
Right.
The Suns beat a Kawhi-less Clippers in 6 games.
Kawhi's there. I don't know if it's gonna go the same way.
I mean, the Bucks would definitely give them a run for their money. It would go either way, but I think the Clippers are a stronger opponent than the Suns are that season. For the Bucks.
I mean, bro, the Suns had no business beating the Lakers in that series. They were historic. It was a historic run of ducking the smoke.
Yeah.
Of not having to play AD, not having to play Kawhi, Jamal Murray got hurt too, right?
Yeah. Yep. And MPJ, I think as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if he played that year. But I mean, MPJ, man, if there's one guy that fleeced $170 million,
he is cold. I know he's injured, but he is nice when he's healthy.
He's nice when he's healthy. When is he healthy?
When you're saying fleece, you mean
healthy?
it's a contract he didn't deserve, like Gordon Hayward.
I don't think he proved that he deserved $170 million in the few games he played with the Nuggets leading up to signing that extension.
It's only because Denver's a small market.
He showed flashes. Yeah, I understand that. You're never going to sign a player through free agency when you're Denver. Right. The only way you're getting your superstars are through the draft. I understand that 100%. But to take that much of a shot on MPJ, I did not like that. He did not prove that he deserved the money.
I agree. I agree, but whatever. Yeah, I felt like
he had that one poster. He had that one poster dunk in the bubble.
He was shooting
that's the only thing I know MPJ
for. 8 3-point attempts a game.
He's a great player. He's a great player. I don't want people to think I'm disrespecting him, but $170 million, that's a max rookie extension. DeAndre Ayton didn't even get that. I would give DeAndre Ayton an extension before MPJ. But
yeah, that's fucking crazy.
That's the reality.
Is that contract worse than the Chris Paul contract?
DeAndre,
to you?
it's 133 mil over 4 years. Oh wait, no. Chris Paul's compared to MPJ's. What's Chris Paul's contract?
I think Bradley Beal has one
He's
of the
got
worst
another.
contracts
It's
in the
this
NBA.
year, next year, one more year.
3
Brad Beal's
years
contract,
left
you think
of
will be
Chris
bad?
Paul. 3 years
This
left of
is
Chris
3
Paul.
years
believe-
left
yeah.
of Chris Paul.
This year, next
Wow.
year after.
Wow, that is one of the worst contracts in the. I did not know
Let me
that.
Double check. Let me double check.
Wow, that is
So-
one of the worst contracts in the league right now.
Last thing I'll say before we'll give Zach some time to look it up. There's a couple teams in the West that I think could use a rim protector, because we're talking about teams that are like there's not a lock to make it out of the West, but there's teams that have Jokic, that have Zubats, that if they get to the finals and they got to play Giannis, like I feel like they should stock up. I guess that's the one thing I'll say, because like even in New Orleans, like Valanciunas is nice, but they don't. I don't think they ever.
I
really,
love Jonas.
Yeah, because we were talking about how the Bucks would have to play the Clippers if they beat the Suns, and they would have to get through Kawhi, Paul George, Batum. Like that would be a nasty defense to get through. But when you get to the paint,
Yeah.
like I think they need someone to clog it up.
Okay, so this is the Chris Paul contract. You have this year, they owe him $28 million. Next year he has $15 million guaranteed, but he's a $30 million cap hit. And the year after is non-guaranteed. But I don't
that's not
think-
bad. That's not terrible.
Can you waive him off of that? Like don't you have to prove to waive that, or am I wrong? Anyway, doesn't matter. But
Yeah, but I thought you meant like he was getting 30 mil over the next each year for the next 3 years.
Yeah,
I was like,
no,
that's
that's
ridiculous. But anyway, we're gonna end the show off with some questions. We still are gonna have like a good 20-30 minutes, of course. But instead of ending it off with a segment, obviously we wanted to give our guest a little bit of a spotlight. So I got 3 questions for you, and then I'm gonna throw a curveball at you. It's a surprise. I didn't DM you about it. I wanted to kind of put you on the spot for this one.
Sure.
But obviously, like we said in the beginning of the episode, you host Outta Pocket, and you guys have had some dope guests. For all the listeners out there, if you have not heard of or listened to Outta Pocket, go check that out instantly, because they have a very dope podcast. I think you guys are the only other NBA podcast other than this podcast when I edit it that I listen to, if I'm being
I
honest.
appreciate it. Thank you. Seriously,
you
that
got-
means a lot.
It is a dope pod. It is a great listen. And you guys have had some really dope players coming in and out of it. So for the first question, I want to ask you, who is your favorite player you've interviewed on Outta Pocket, and why?
Making him pick favorites off the bat.
Damn. Bones Highland has been fucking awesome whenever we've had him on. He's really easy to talk to, and we're working on something with him for the next year or so, but he is really fucking kind and just a really easy hang. Boogie's really fun. I tried to get Boogie to be disrespectful about Chet, and he looked at me, and you could tell he knew that I was trying to get him to say some shit that was gonna get clipped, and you can watch me just sort of melt and very quickly backpedal. But Boogie has been very cool. Grant Williams was awesome. Grant Williams is a little bit like Draymond in the sense where he's so annoying defensively that when he's not on your team, he just kind of frustrates the hell out of you as a fan. But he was fantastic as a guest, had great stories, told us about him getting ejected, what that was like to get ejected. I think those are the ones. I'm sure there's someone slipping through my mind right now. Those guys were great. Bro, that we were supposed to get Patrick Beverly, and this is before he had his Barstool podcast.
Right.
And I went to the store and bought a pair of black Air Force Ones to give him on the pod as a gift. Hey, you've earned these. And he fucking backed out an hour before. So I still have some black Air Forces in the back of my car for Pat Bev when he shows up. And I hope he shows up when we offer him and he says no, and then we can get him to sign him after. Because if we got him and Grant Williams, guys that embody black Air Force One energy to sign the shoes, I think it'd be a really fun thing on the set. But those are probably the best ones I've interviewed as far as on Outta Pocket goes.
A pair of black Air Forces signed in gray Sharpie by Pat Bev is a once in a lifetime collectible.
I
That is
know.
awesome.
I don't even think he's a Nike athlete, so I know he'd give us. I don't think he is. I know he'd give us a hard time about it, but fuck, just getting that signature would be sick. So
he embraces the black New Balance energy.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, moving on. One thing I love about your guys' pod is that the vibe you get from it. It's like you're not really pressing these guys about just generic NBA questions. It's like a chill hangout session. You kind of get like that personal side of every NBA players. And when you give that kind of vibe and you do a show like that, you're bound to hear some funny stories. And the thing I want to ask you is, what is the wildest thing you have heard from a player during an Outta Pocket interview? I know Swaggy P has been there. I know Boogie has been there. There has to have been something that...
Fuck. Swaggy was great. We've had him 5 times on the show. He's sort of like a guest host at this point. He is wonderful. Swag took like a minute to get comfortable with all of us, and then once he kind of finds his footing, he's so easy to talk to and really funny. I'll say my favorite story we got from a guy was I got to be careful because guys will tell us stuff before they go on, and there's a Boogie story that I'd love to tell, but it's not mine to tell. But we had Iman Shumpert on, and we asked him what that final sequence was like against the Warriors where Kyrie hit that game winner and all of that. And so Shump was actually on the bench, but he talks about they get into the huddle after they get into the huddle on their final timeout. And before Ty Lue can even draw anything, Shump's like, Kyrie's like, get the ball to me and get Steph on me, and I'll handle everything else. I don't care. Just get me the ball. I don't know what the look you want to do is. Just ball to me and get the switch with Steph. So they go down the court, and Steph immediately runs to JR, knowing full well the ball is not ending up in JR's hands on a late possession in a must-win Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And when he's trying to run with JR, Shump and JR are both yelling, "Hey, Kyrie, he doesn't want the smoke. Put him in the deep water." So they run one look trying to get the switch, and they don't get it. Steph sort of ducks it, and Shump's yelling, "He doesn't want the deep water. Kai, take him to the deep water." And then they get another switch, and that's when Steph has to switch on to Kyrie. And to Steph's credit, did a hell of a job guarding him. Did a better shot, unfortunately. And so that was very fucking cool to hear that story and get to have that conversation with him.
Iman Shumpert is one of my favorite players of all time.
He's
I
awesome.
Him as a Knicks
I
fan.
love him.
I have a
So
funny
funny,
story.
bro.
It's not as funny as that, but this is when I was very young. I was in 8th grade. I won an award. The trophy is actually up there. Won it at my school. It was this thing called Fight to Be Fit, some online fitness program they introduced to us at an assembly. They said the winner was getting Knicks tickets. As a Knicks fan, I was like, all right, got to do this. Mom helped me out. We got a perfect score in the thing. It's technically national champion, but there was only let's say 6 schools across the nation doing it. So I say as a national champion. But go to the Knicks game. I saw J.R. Smith while he was getting his socks on in some lounge. Got his signature again on a ball up there. Met Steve Novak.
Nice.
Met Landry Fields. Cool stuff. And Steve Novak was one of my favorite players at the time. So Iman Shumpert, I love Iman Shumpert because I liked his hair. He had that the flat top.
Yeah.
And, that's what I knew him as at the time. So I'm down at I didn't have courtside seats, but before the game, I got to receive the award on the court. Before we went, though, we're seeing them shoot around, and I'm like, "Mr. Shumpert, can you please sign my ball?" And he comes because his rebound came right over to me. He's like, "Yeah, I got you. Just let me shoot for a few minutes." Never came back, so that hurt.
Damn.
That'll happen. I
As a
believe it.
12-year-old
We need-
kid, that hurt. But
We
I
need
love
Iman
Shump.
Shumpert on Lepodcast.
I love Shump.
ASAP
Yeah.
Rocky.
He's great.
He's
a
so
great
much
guest.
fun.
That was an amazing story. That
Oh,
blew
thank
my
you.
that
I know
blew
you
my
cried.
expectations.
I know
did
you
not think-
cried. I know you cried. He cried.
I don't know what I was
Yeah.
more upset about because Melo didn't play that game either. They were sitting out for a little
No,
bit.
not you, Zach. Not you, Zach.
I was like, why? Yeah. That hurts, man. The only athlete to ever be actively rude to me. So before I did this job, I worked at Yahoo Sports, and that's where the podcast came from originally. And before that, I worked for The Ringer, and before that, I worked for the NFL as like a talent booker, or talent producer, whatever you want to call it. And Jimmy Graham is the only guy that's ever been actively rude to me. So fuck Jimmy Graham. But other than that, Sandy, I'll let you. What's your next question?
Well, my next question was, what is the worst experience you've had with any athlete or someone within the media? So I find that hilarious that you say that.
What did he say? What did he say?
Answer.
Yeah, what did he say?
Bro, so I'll go through I'll do three quick stories about this. Okay, so when I worked for the NFL, they would send us to the Pro Bowl, and I worked for NFL.com doing producing and booking and stuff like that. And so basically, we'd have a room, and I would be tasked with getting the players to come do our interview, and to incentivize them, the NFL Players Association would pay guys to do things throughout the year. So and you have to do a set number of these things on top. You get paid for all of them, but on top of it, you have to do 15 a year. And this is one that you could check off. But the big sell was it's a 15-minute interview and you get $1,500. And so guys would be funny sometimes if they wanted to say no. Like JJ Watt was like, I got to go meet my family. And I was like, I'll get you the next day. And he's like, uh-huh. And then the next day I was like, JJ, can you do it? And he's like, I got a thing. And then I was like, you fuck. And then the next day again. And so you can have a fun report, guys. And I get it. Listen, you're there. You want to spend time with your families. You want to be on vacation. But you're getting paid at least to do it. So whatever. But DeAndre Hopkins, I asked, do you want to do this? He was like, yeah, ask me tomorrow. So I asked him and he's like, how much money did you say it was? And I was like, $1,500. And he's like, that's $800 after taxes, and that's not worth my time. And he walked away, and I was like, can't even disagree with that. I went up to Travis Kelce, he's the fucking best, and he had a really fun rapport about this. So he comes into the hotel, and I'm like, hey, Travis, can we get you for 15 minutes? And he's like, I have a really important phone call with my agent. I can't this afternoon. Grab me tomorrow, and I'll come by. So the next morning I wake up and I look at my phone before I show up to shoot, and I have an alert from ESPN. Breaking news, Travis Kelce signs 4-year, $48 million extension with the Chiefs. And I'm like, well, now he's not going to want $1,500. And I show up at the hotel and everyone's clapping for Travis. And he kind of looks through the crowd, kind of right at me. And he goes like this, and I go walking up to him and I dap him up and I'm like, hey man, congrats. So I was like, you don't really want my $1,500 anymore, do you? And he's like, honestly, I don't really need your $1,500 anymore. But he's like, honestly, if I didn't have to do a million radio interviews, I'd come in and do it for free. You guys seem cool. But Travis is the man. So you can say no in a fun way. Jimmy Graham was like, I was like, hey man, can you do this interview really fast? He's like, he looks at me, he's like, no, fuck off. And I was like, oh, what? And I was like, are you serious? And he's like, fuck off, and stormed off. And I was just like, okay, I hadn't asked him, I hadn't bothered him. So he just was like, hey, you know what? You catch guys in bad moods. You never know. So who am I to judge if he's a bad guy?
But that time of the month.
He could be, could have been, could have been. And I just was like, you know what? For me, it's and then the worst part was he got traded to I'm a Seahawks fan. He got traded to the Seahawks that summer. So it was even worse because I had to be a Jimmy Graham fan, but fuck Jimmy Graham. So that's probably the worst interaction I've had.
I love that you bring up DeAndre Hopkins because before I go to the last part of the show, real quick, I have a funny story about him. I went to a Rams game a few years back, and they were playing the Texans. This is when the Texans or DeAndre Hopkins was still on the Texans. And it was a preseason game, so he showed up in uniform and gear and everything, but he had these Adidas shoes on. He wasn't wearing cleats, he was wearing shoes. And he was kind of chilling with JJ Watt. And my aunt got me these really sick seats. It was the courtside equivalent of football, right the stands, right there. I can literally yell at the players. And I got seats right by the Texans sideline. And the Texans were my one of my favorite teams because of D-Hop. I'm a huge DeAndre Hopkins fan. So my aunt got me a Rams jersey. I still have the Todd Gurley jersey to wear there. So I'm wearing a Rams jersey on the Texans side, right? And I'm yelling at DeAndre Hopkins. I'm trying to get his attention. I'm like, D-Hop, D-Hop, D-Hop. He turns around. He chucks up the do sign to me. And I'm like, can I have your shoes? I just screamed that at him. He turns around, looks at me, looks at my jerseys and just had disgust on his face, and he turned back around. And I've never taken more of an L in my life. I have a video of me like zooming in on him, everything, but I just wanted to say that real quick.
That's great.
Going into my last thing, Zach, I know I DM'd you saying I'm going to give you a time to tell a story. I'm so happy that you got to tell that Iman Shumpert story and a couple other ones, because that's not what's really happening here.
Oh my God.
Zach, I had to ask you this because I've never got to talk to you about this, and it hurt my heart. From the bottom of my heart, it hurt me. Real quick, for the viewers that don't know, the first job I ever got was at Buckets, and it was because of Zach. I joined it live. He was the one who pushed for that, and I got a text. It was really dope, one of the dopest experiences I've had. And obviously, I follow Zach on Twitter, and I saw the story, Zach, a couple of months back about a certain someone. I don't know if you guys know her. She's kind of low key, Bella Hadid.
Oh no!
And
yeah,
it's hurt my heart because as NBA fans, we've seen a lot of fumbled bags. We have seen a lot of fumbled bags.
Gigi. He's not Bella. It's
Gigi.
You're good.
Apologies.
You're good.
Apologies, but we've seen a lot. We've seen Dennis Schroeder fumble $84 million. I've seen stories of Latrell Sparrow fumble $21 million, and I've seen stories of Zach Schwartz fumbling Gigi Hadid. I want you to use this platform to tell the story. That is the story that I wanted you to tell today. Because it hurt me. Like, I wanted to reach out to you and be like, "Are you good, bro?" Like, that hurt. That hurt my heart.
I'm all right now. So, all right. When I was in college, I worked for the ASU basketball team as a student manager. Super fun gig. Great way to like get involved if you want to be an agent or work in basketball or whatever you want to do. It's just a good way to like help your resume. It's a brutal job, but we would travel all over. So I have ADD, and during games, I would sometimes the game was shit. Not every game is going to be good. I'd look around the stands, and we're playing USC that game, and our bench was right next to the student section, and there was a girl kind of in like there was two girls in like the front row right near us, and I glance over, and the girl's kind of like doing this, like staring at me, and gives kind of like one of these to her friends and like points at me, and I'm kind of like, oh, this feels nice. Like, no one gives us managers attention ever, so this is sick. And I remember, damn, she's really pretty. Like, okay, whatever, play it cool. So I go to locker room, and in the locker room, it kind of dawns on me that like I had actually met this girl once before at a party, and at the time I was a sophomore in college, and it was the summer before. So I was a freshman in college, going to be a sophomore, and a friend of mine invited this girl and her friends to this party we're all at, and we all made fun of them because this girl was still in high school. She was going to be senior. They were all 18, but it was just like, bro, why are you inviting high school girls to our party? And there's like a 2-year age gap, so it's such dumb whatever. Anyway, so I sort of remember like, oh, she's a senior in high school. Like, no, thank you. So game resumes, and she's still kind of like doing this and like whatever. Game ends. I pack everything up. I get on the bus, and I'm sitting on the bus waiting to go back to the hotel. And one of our players, shout out to Ruslan and Pativ, comes walking over, and he's like, hey, my friend wants to meet you. And I'm like, who's your friend? And he's like, oh, she was in the stands. I was like, oh, blonde girl in the student section, huh? And he's like, yeah. And it's like, no, I'm not getting off the bus. And he's like, come on, just come meet her. She's a model. And I was like, no, dude, she's not. She was like, she's 18. She'll be in college in like 3 months. What do you care? Like, just come meet her. And I was like, no, I'm not getting off the bus. And the girl was Gigi Hadid. And ironically, I told this story. So I had forgotten that had happened. Like, because she was doing like early modeling stuff, but she was not, global supermodel, multi-millionaire Gigi Hadid. And so I actually kind of forgot. And when I remembered the story, was retelling it to a friend that was on the basketball team. His name was Trent Lockett. And I was talking to Trent, and it was Trent and his wife and some friend of theirs that I'd never met that went to ASU with us. And I start the story like, oh, we're playing at the Galen Center. And she stops and she goes, are you the manager? And I was like, yeah. And she goes, is this story about Gigi Hadid? And I was like, it is. And she goes, oh, you fucked up. She goes, she's asking about you for like months afterwards. So it is a true story. It is. I made like a video about it a long time ago for Yahoo, and I'm still very proud of that video. It's on my Instagram. You can scroll. You may have to do a bit of a scroll to go find it. But it's a very good story. I think I think for both her and I, it worked out for the best. You know, she's gone on to do great things. I've also gone on to do things. But you know what? Like, it is what it is. I think it would have been
That story
whatever. It's a great story now. So
basically,
I
what I'm
wish her
getting
the
from
best.
this is moral of the story. Gigi, if you're listening, I will get off the bus for you. I will
Get off the.
anything for you.
I have a awesome fucking girlfriend. So Gigi, if you're listening,
that just hurt
talk
my
to
heart.
Saney.
Oh my god.
Oh,
It all worked out. It all worked out. He don't need you,
It all
GG.
works
He don't
out.
need you,
though.
GG.
So
It
it
all
all
works
it
out.
all works out.
I had it.
Damn right.
That's something
yeah, you just gotta-
you don't. That's something you don't think
yeah,
about.
just-
You can't sweat that one. You got to keep moving.
Yeah.
Keep rolling.
Oh
keep
no,
moving,
it's
keep
a
rolling.
great story at this point, and I'm glad I can tell it and get some laughs.
Well,
was.
we're at the end of our episode. Zach, this was a really dope episode. Appreciate
Thank
you
you
coming
guys.
on. This was,
Let me know when I can tweet it
Sir,
out and all
sir.
that, and appreciate
100%.
you guys for having me on.
This was again super dope episode. Blew my expectations. The stories you told were amazing.
Thank you.
Again, to all the listeners, if you haven't listened to Outta Pocket, I'm telling you right now, go check out Buckets on Instagram. Look at their clips. Watch them on YouTube. Very dope show.
Thank you.
Only other show I will advocate for other than the podcast.
I
And
appreciate it.
That is saying something.
I was afraid you were gonna say like it's our podcast and Bill Simmons, and I was just gonna like turn off my camera and fucking leave.
But this was super dope. Again, thank you for tuning in, and we will see you guys in episode 38. Peace.